Welcome, dear community. Welcome to the Community Meditation Center. We are here together for our weekly Sunday gathering that we've started to call our Sacred Sunday Sit. My name is Jessica Mingus. My pronouns are she, her. I have the joy of hosting today. As that bell was sounding, I was hearing Bart's last words in my mind before we opened up the room, which were pause and relax. So I was taking that to heart from the beginning of our time together. So for anyone that might be new to the CMC, first of all, a big welcome to you. I'll share a little bit about what our time together is going to look like. So, in just a moment, Bart is going to guide us through a meditation practice that is usually about 25 minutes. It ends at 11 o'clock Eastern. And then we take a pause then to reflect together on Dāna, the Pali word for generosity. And then Bart is going to go into his talk for today, his Dharma share. So we are continuing on our journey through the Pāramīs, and he will share a little bit more about what he has in store in just a moment. But throughout our session, if you have questions or comments, if there's anything that you'd like Bart to respond to when we open up the space at 11:45, please drop whatever your thoughts are in the chat. So at 11:45 Eastern, 15 minutes before we close, we will begin to read through all of those questions and comments. So it's a wonderful opportunity to not only share your thoughts with all of us, but also to have our dear guiding teacher share some of his reflections back. And so we have two simple little practices that we do every virtual Sunday when we gather. And some people have already started to do one of them, which is to share in the chat where it is that you're tuning in from. So we call Sundays our mini retreat. And so, where is your retreat center for today? Where are you zooming in from? And so I saw right away a rainy Brooklyn. It's also rainy in Maplewood, New Jersey, where I am. And we also have friends in Belgium. Oh, Peter in the Upper West Side, CMC's hometown, home from the hospital. So we're happy to hear that, Peter. Welcome home. Veronica in Cologne, Germany. We have friends in Connecticut, Laguna Beach, Southern California, Belgium. Dear Bart is in Harlem. Mariana's in Mexico. Hudson Valley. Ooh, with Lisa in Bethesda, Maryland, with her new college graduate son. So welcoming you all. And then our most cherished simple little ritual that we always engage in together before we begin our practice is a community wave. So if you are on camera, give a nice warm wave, maybe a smile, warm eyes. I see a Zoom user who's a mouse, very friendly looking mouse. And some folks that are calling in on the phone. So, welcome all of you.
Oh,
That warm wave and some smiles really do so much to help us feel a little bit more connected in this virtual world of ours. So, dear Bart,
mm.
welcome back.
Thank you.
Wonderful to see you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for starting us off in such a beautiful way. And just wanted to share that last Sunday I attended the memorial for the founding executive director of the Community Meditation Center, Susanna Weiss. And I saw quite a few of there in person, and it was quite poignant to spend time together and honor Susanna's life and her legacy, because without her energy and Alan Locus's energy, this would not be happening right now. And I want to welcome you now. Just that you took the time to practice. It's um it's inspiring to me. And today's topic is about honesty and truthfulness. We'll reflect on how honest are we with ourselves? How honest are we with others? And so we'll look at the Buddhist teachings on both honesty, but also we'll look at lying. And the Buddhist advice was pretty straightforward about training honesty. He said that through repeated reflection on our behavior, we can train honesty. Through repeated reflection. And if there's some word that really points to meditation, it is repeating. And I was telling Jessica just before we hit recording, like, just pause and relax. Those are the words I'm going to use a lot that I've learned through a practice called Insight Dialogue. And pause is that repeated remembering to be mindful, because we forget so often. And relax is just when you check in to see, how is my body, and can I be with the body or with this mind state? Pause and relax. And so in the guided meditation, I want to ask you to notice the truth of your experience that we can feel anytime when we're mindful. And so just starting with a check how your body is doing. The body never lies. It's always truthful. What would you like to do? You stretch it a little bit, shake it a little bit. Pause and relax. Mindfulness and kindness. And then when you're ready, I'm going to use Joseph's words, Joseph Goldstein's. Posture up. That could mean like in a seated position, you're kind of sitting upright with your chin tucked in. It could also mean you decide to stand or to lie down, but to let your body kind of know it's time for noble resting, for pause and relax. And to come home to the body. Just noticing this embodied experience of yours, being embodied. Pause. You can close your eyes or keep them open softly. Is it okay to relax physically? To soften the grip of the jaw? To settle back a little bit? Is it okay to let your belly hang down, soft, relaxed? Seeing the way things are in the body. Can you be with the body sensations? Maybe the honest, truthful answer is no. Noticing maybe the reactivity, the fear, connecting with your truth right now. Taking a moment to notice what's it like to have a mind? What's the weather of your mind right now? Pause. There's this human mind. And relax. Receiving and allowing as best as you can thoughts, emotion, sleepiness. Having this human mind is like this right now. And then dropping down back into the body. And feel how the body is moving on the rhythm of the breath. Pause, knowing you're breathing. Relax, letting the body breathe by itself. As you settle back, when another experience is calling for your attention, pause. Can you notice the truth of that experience right now? Could be planning, lost in thought. And to gently return to feeling your body breathe. Never too late to pause. If needed, no relax is there. So shifting now into a period of about 10 minutes of silence. That pause and relax support you. You are never too late for the present moment. With every pause, we come home to now. What's the reality or truth of your experience right now? Can you be with the flow of experiences right now? With the kindness of relax. Pause and relax. This is the truth of my experience right now.
Thank you, Bart. So, I found a poem that I wanted to share with you all today, um, that really kind of had me thinking about the power of not only generosity, but also kindness, and how, in this community that I've been building alongside Community Meditation Center with Bart, my organization called Care Lab Collective, which is an online community for parents of neurodivergent and disabled kids. Um, it's a community that we operate on a community dues system. So, very similar to CMC, no one is ever turned away for lack of funds, right? The goal is for everybody to have access to community. And something that really strikes me about Care Lab is, that this is a network of parents who are facing pretty profound adversity and challenges, them and their kids. So tireless advocates going through pretty difficult, painful things. I can testify to that myself. And yet there is still this kind of wellspring of generosity that everybody has when it comes to supporting each other. And so, even though when it comes to thinking about being generous financially, there is often this kind of idea that we might not have enough, right? This sense of scarcity. Um, what kindness teaches us is that there actually is plenty to go around. And even if we might be in a difficult spot, it is incredibly nourishing to the heart to see that people are still capable of pouring into each other, and the reciprocity of then getting poured back into in community. So I read this poem and it made me think of Care Lab, and then it made me think of CMC and this sort of partnership, that we all have in sustaining this community through, um, all of our means, right? Whether that's time that we have to offer to CMC, expertise of our many volunteers and board members, those of you that make contributions every week of a few dollars or a few more dollars, and that all of that added up makes it possible to sustain this very special place. So, this is a poem called Kindness by an Arab American poet named Naomi Shihab Nye. She was born in 1952, and I will share it with you before I share some information in the chat about ways to contribute to help sustain this very special place. The poem goes like this: Kindness. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to mail letters and purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is I you have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. And with that, I will share a little bit of information about ways to contribute some kindness to this community. There are many ways to do it, and it has been a true joy to watch our community of volunteers grow. So, thanking you all. I will share some more information about ways to plug in, connect with us, and offer generosity in that way. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jessica. Only kindness makes sense. Makes me think of when the Dalai Lama was asked in an interview, what do you teach? What is this Buddhism about? And he said, kindness. That is my religion. And pause and relax, to me, are like the combination of that, of mindfulness and kindness. And speaking of community, one community that I have served for many years was in a middle school in the South Bronx. And it was a special middle school. It was for kids who ended up there who got suspended in their home school. Everyone called these schools suspension schools, but their real name was alternate learning centers. And in a strange way, after a while, most of the kids really enjoyed being in that smaller community. And also different kinds of subject. And I was one of them. They called me the program to ease your mind and relax your body. And I was teaching meditation and mindful movement, and I always came in with a theme. And I remember one time I asked the kids about anger. And inspired by the Buddhist teaching, I asked them about not just anger and how it feels, but also the causes of anger. And the Buddha, especially with challenging mind states, not only asks us to pause and know that mind state, but also really see what else is here. What is contributing to, for example, feeling angry? So I asked this question, what pushes your buttons? And we would go round in a circle, everyone would answer. And the first person who started was a 13-year-old girl, I forget her name. And she goes, what really pushes my buttons when people straight up lie in my face, especially when I know they're lying. That really gets to me. She got all fired up. Ooh, that gets to me. And we're like, yeah. It was like a communal nod for a moment. And then the next person I asked them too, what pushes your buttons? And this person goes, I can't think of anything better than being lied to. Then the next one said the same. And we all kind of came to the conclusion that is one of the most awful things that can happen. And so we wondered as a community, why does being lied to feel so infuriating, bad? Another boy, maybe 12 years old, he goes, because you can't trust people anymore then. And last Tuesday, when it was really hot outside in New York, I had my mom on the phone and she asked, what's your topic for CMC on Sunday? And I go, honesty. And she goes, are you going to talk about politicians? So I don't know if I'm going to talk about politicians. She goes, well, in Holland right now, the trust in government and politicians is at an all-time low. I go, well, not only in Holland. And we again talked about how painful it is when you can already know you're being lied to. I remember this phrase, alternate facts, as if there could be such a thing. So we all know it, and the Buddha knew it too. The pain of lying and its, existence everywhere. And so today's topic about honesty is also looking at lying. It's also looking at moments when it might be hard to express a truth. And it's part of what Jessica was saying of our spring theme of the 10 perfections that we've been looking at. And those are, you could call them 10 core values in Buddhism, that when we train those, and they're just human qualities, it brings more compassion, it brings more ease and kindness within ourselves and our communities. And so, as I always do, I look up the Pali word. That Pali is the language in which the teachings were recorded. And it's called, I don't know how to pronounce it, to be honest. Sacca, Sacca. Maybe Sacha, Sacca, I don't know. But what's interesting to me, it doesn't only refer to honesty or truthfulness, but also just for the word truth. And then I realized that word truth or Sacca is throughout the Buddhist teachings. And maybe the most famous way of using that word Sacca, it's called the Four Noble Truths, which is the core teaching that's shared with all schools in Buddhism. It always feels good for me to hear those truths because they are real. It's reality. It's honest. The first truth is the truth that there is pain in life, that sometimes things just hurt. It's inevitable to face grief, loss, pain, to be with anger, to be surrounded by lying people. That's the first truth that the Buddha awakened to. That sometimes in life things are painful. But he also awakened to what he called the second noble truth, where we realized that there's a cause in how much we actually suffer over the reality of that there's pain in life. We call that cause craving. It's that creates so much extra, optional, unnecessary suffering. The constant feverish craving for pleasure, the craving for things to be other than they are. The list is endless. He boiled it down to this energy that he sometimes called a constant hunger. We can just rest with the way things are. And then the third noble truth is the truth of the release of that very craving, the release of that unnecessary suffering. And that is huge. That's really what the practice is about, is to notice moments. And maybe it's arising right now when you're just kind of okay. You can be with experience as it is. You're not creating any story around it, no craving for anything other than it is. That's the truth of a moment of being free from unnecessary suffering. And then the fourth noble truth. So the Buddha discovered it's trainable. You can train more moments of being with life as it is without extra suffering. It doesn't mean it's going to be all hallelujah, but it'll be way more peaceful, compassionate, and kind. And I love hearing these truths over and over again. And I also love how there's so many schools in Buddhism, yet this is what they all share, because it's true. So I'm going to invite you, I'm going to give a little homework this week, if you don't mind, is to train in honesty, in truthfulness, in connecting with it, and to express it. And I thought the first place to start is in our meditation practice. How can we find the truth in meditation? And for that, I want to go to another Pali word that describes our practice. Our practice is often called insight meditation or mindfulness meditation. Buddha had a word for it. He called it vipassana, which literally means seeing the way things are. Because with every pause, and we remember to be mindful, it allows us to really see or feel or know this is what's happening now. This is the truth, this moment's experience. If you pause right now and feel your body breathe. If you can't feel it that well, just take a deeper breath. That's the truth of your experience right now. Vipassana is about seeing and connecting with what is true right now. And all it really takes is to remember to be mindful. That's our work, to constantly keep remembering to be mindful. And that's why pause is my favorite instruction. It kind of sums it all up. Oh, pause. It's like a stepping out of any kind of habitual doing. And oh yeah, mindfulness. So pause is the first step in Vipassana meditation. The next, I like to call relax. And this instruction is not a command, not a forcing, but way more an inquiry into, can I be with this right now? Just pause. Whatever's in the foreground, drop the question, can I be with this experience right now? Seeing the way things are, being with the way things are. Pause, relax. Check right now if that is possible, to be with the way things are right now. And if the answer is yes, then in meditation you can rest in more of a receptive knowing. Oh yeah, it's happening. You might actually notice the third noble truth of feeling free from suffering. But also notice, and this is key in your meditation, when the answer is no, you can be with this. That's honest. That's your truth in that moment. Huge part of Vipassana meditation. Seeing that you resist this experience. You crave it to be others, otherwise by maybe being afraid of it, hating it, judging it. Can't let go of it. That's true too. And that's the second noble truth. So there's nothing wrong when you're craving or judging. It's another truth of this human experience. In those moments, with pause and relax, maybe you can meet that, meeting their resistance, meeting their reactivity. So really notice when your mind is saying, I can't be with this right now, or this cannot be happening right now. Perfect moments to pause and inviting that inquiry. Oh yeah, I cannot be with this. That's okay. Can I relax into it anyway? So in my meditation, whatever this is, your experience is true, but your attitude about it is true as well. So in Vipassana meditation, we need a ton of kindness. That's why it's the Dalai Lama's religion. Because it's kindness that eventually allows us to hold the difficulty, the first noble truth, the sorrow, the grief, the sickness. Because life is hard, how can we be anything but kind? Speaking of a mild discomfort, last Wednesday here in New York, it was hot. Right now it's rainy. I can't even remember, but we had like a 3-day heat wave here. And we don't have an AC installed in our apartment. And in the evening, I had I think my third cold shower. And immediately I started sweating again. And I paused. And then I noticed, of course, feeling hot. But I also felt like annoyed and tired. And so just, and again, it was first like more like, oh yeah, things are just hurting. First noble truth. But then I noticed a pull towards pleasure. What about potato chips? No, too hot. An ice cream. Oh, we don't have one. TV. Let me pick up the phone for the, I don't know, 100th time. All second noble truths. And then all of a sudden I realized, let me just lay down on our wooden floor. I was wearing very little, spread my arms out on my legs, and then just started resting and being mindful. And I slowly noticed that the craving for just wanting not to be with the unpleasant heat, it released. And then I had more space. I moved the fan towards me. And I all of a sudden noticed I can be with this mild discomfort. It was a moment of freedom, and I just rested for about maybe 20 minutes on the floor. Pause and relax. It was small, but it was for me a little mini moment of being free from unnecessary suffering. And so this parami of honesty we can experience in our practice, in life. But it also asks us to be mindful and truthful when we engage with other people and in community. And the Buddha was very clear about what it means to communicate in a wise way. He had quite a few lists about how to communicate. And most of them always start with this question: is what I'm communicating factual? Is it true? And sometimes he would phrase it in another way. He would say, wise speech, right speech, is about abstaining from lying as one element. And so in studying for this week's talk, I found a sutta called Instructions to Rahula at the Mango Grove. I highly recommend you read it too if you want. It's on accesstoinsight.org. And the reason I suggest is because I wasn't the only one suggesting it. King Asoka, he was a king in ancient India, quite a few hundred years after the Buddha, who at first was very strict and was also engaging in war, and then just saw how destructive it was and completely turned towards kindness and compassion. And he was the one who spread a lot of Buddhism in ancient India. And he said to all his, I guess, citizens, read this sutta often. And the sutta is about the Buddha talking to his kid, his 7-year-old son. This is what he said. So the Buddha is talking to someone who's 7. When anyone feels no shame at telling a deliberate lie, there's no evil I will tell you they will not do. Thus, Rahula, you should train yourself in this way. I will not tell a deliberate lie, even in jest. And then he asked Rahula, very famous question. He goes, what do you think, Rahula? What is a mirror for? And this 7-year-old boy answers, for reflection, sir. Then the Buddha goes, in the same way, Rahula, bodily actions, verbal actions, and mental actions are to be done with repeated reflection. That's what the Buddha kept saying, repeated reflection. That's what he was encouraging a 7-year-old kid to do. And he was, of course, encouraging us all to do so. Because then what would follow is this very thoughtful explanation that the Buddha is asking his son, whenever you speak, ask yourself, reflect, will this lead to self-harm? Will it lead to the affliction of others? Or both? But that was only the beginning. He said that is when you're about to speak. The Buddha also said, keep reflecting, Rahula, when you are speaking, if it's harmful. And the most important thing came at the last. He goes, after the fact, notice if you've spoken in a way that was perhaps harmful to yourself, others, or both. I really recommend reading this sutta. It has way more than I'm just talking about right now. But it really oozes an encouragement to be honest, especially when you realize after the fact that what you said wasn't completely true or skillful or not appropriate. And then he told that 7-year-old boy, he goes, when you realize after the fact that you might have lied or weren't speaking in a skillful way, confess it, reveal it, lie it open to someone you trust. Repeated reflection. I think it kind of sums up the whole of Vipassana practice too, this constant repeating to remember to be mindful, but also to be mindful and honestly look back. Because then we learn, especially when we might not have been so honest. So let's go back to the middle school for a moment, where I was teaching. And the discussion became really lively. Actually, those classes were always at 9 a.m. So this probably was 9:10. And so we all realized being lied to makes us angry. But then I asked this question: who in this group lies sometimes? We're all infuriated about it, but do you do it? And they go, uh-huh, we do. So I asked, who lied last week? All the hands went up. Okay, let's get a shorter period of time. Who lied within the last 3 days? Everyone's hand went up. Who lied yesterday? Everyone's hand went up. And then one boy goes, Bart, I even lied this morning to the principal so that I could get to your class and I didn't have to get a tardy pass. And we all kind of smiled. And it kind of made me feel like a sense of like we can be honest about our lying. And that's exactly what the Buddha was teaching Rahula. So let me ask you, as you pause for a moment and reflect, when was the last time you lied? Not to bring us down, but just to notice. Through repeated reflection, we practice this Pāramī of honesty. And I can share, I lied about my health. And I just not only lied to my loved ones about it, I also lied to myself about it. And my body was giving me all kinds of truthful signals because I was going to say believe, but I know the body never lies. And so I had heart palpitations. Sometimes in these episodes, I would lose my breath, no energy whatsoever. But I could not be with this painful truth. So I refused to talk about it or even admit to myself, maybe something is really wrong. I didn't dare to be honest about it because if I would, it would make it too real. And in hindsight, through actually repeated reflection, I realized I was downplaying the truth because being completely honest about it was just too hard. It's the same thing in meditation when you drop that question, can I be with this right now? And the answer is no. I think besides downplaying the truth, I also upplay it sometimes. I can, when I get like not so mindful and all excited, I can exaggerate my accomplishments a little bit, especially to our son Lou, who's complaining it was so hot during the heat wave. And I go, when I was your age, I would play soccer and it was 35 Celsius, 98 in Fahrenheit. But was I really? So sometimes there's that bragging energy that comes over us. It usually comes with a strong sense of self, or with someone whom you feel like you have to position yourself in a way that is strong, and I exaggerate sometimes. And then when I do the repeated reflection afterwards, I feel a little embarrassed. Or Chantal, my wife, would point out, Bart, did you really play soccer when it was so hot? But the embarrassment and the laying it open is actually part of the learning to refrain from it again. And so our discussion in the middle school got so lively, everyone wanted to share one of their lies. Bart, what did you lie about? And I go, you know what? Let's not go into that so much. But instead, I asked the question, why do we lie? Why do you lie? And the same girl who started the whole thing when we were talking about anger, she goes, it's simple. It's very simple, Bart. We lie to stay out of trouble. And again, there was this communal nod. Yeah. And so this made me wonder. I'm going to ask you to take some time too, if you like. What makes speaking the truth or your subjective truth challenging at times? What is that? Is it to stay out of trouble? What other conditions, the Buddha would say, might be present? For me, it was fear, or not want to be seen as vulnerable. It's as if there's always something at stake. Betty just wrote avoiding confrontation in the chat. That's right. And it's especially becomes heightened for me when I know there's a need to express a truth with someone who's not going to agree with me. And there's one sutta where the Buddha talks about how to handle the difficult situation when you have to share a truth, but it's not going to be welcomed by others. I'll just read to you what he said. He said that in the case of words that I know to be factual, true, and beneficial, but they are unendearing and disagreeable to the other, I have a sense of the proper time for saying them. I think the key element here is that when you're all maybe worked up because you might feel like you have to say something, but you want to avoid that confrontation or whatever there is, finding the right time, having a sense for the proper time is what the Buddha is teaching us. My grandma used to say, remaining silent sometimes is gold, especially when you realize the other person is not ready to receive my truth. So this is really helpful, I think, to kind of use mindfulness to notice that right timing. With some people, I really feel like I want to sit down with them to create the conditions for it, or not, to walk with them. Sometimes it's premature to share your own truth because you haven't fully digested it yet. And what can really benefit from finding the right time is pause and relax. The pause grounds us back into the present moment's experience. And then we ground ourselves with the kindness of relax. And so what I often do is to see if I can be mindful of the body. Always to come home to the body. Maybe even right now, is it possible for you to feel your body and hear the words that are touching your ears? Pause. Know there's a body. And maybe physically bring in some relaxation, softening, loosening. Especially in relationality. The Buddha suggested this instruction. He would teach being mindful of your body-mind internally and being mindful of the body-mind externally, both. So meaning that your mindfulness is not directed just to yourself. It's also available for what's going on around you, the other person or the other people. It's just like as if you're listening deeply, not just with your ears, but also with your eyes. How is that other person communicating? And then through the pause, you might realize, maybe hold off with my speaking. Let me listen more. Because again, if I reflect, and I usually do that in the evenings afterwards, I realize I spoke too soon, too hastily, or with an agitated attitude. Another student once said, the pause really works, Bart, because it allows for patience and a sense of the proper time for communicating. So that's why this embodied presence can be so helpful in daily life. That's why the Buddha always started in his instructions. First, become aware of your body. My favorite pauser, I told you before, is Obama. When he speaks, he sometimes literally stops speaking for a while. It's as if he gives himself space to recollect, but also by giving that space, he gives the listener time to digest what's happening as well. If you pause right now, check again, how is the body? Often when I have to share a difficult truth, there's tension in my body. Shoulders are up, tightness around the jaw, bringing in that physical relaxation, dropping the shoulders, loosening the jaw. Pause and relax. So the suggested homework is to connect with your truth and also notice how you express it and see if that mantra or whatever you want to call it, pause, relax, can be there to help you to find the body again. And so I'd love to hear from you. I'm already seeing quite of interesting suggestions in the chat, so I'm going to close soon. But I wanted to close with one of the teachings. It's called the 5 Keys to Right Speech. And you'll recognize a lot of what we've been reflecting on today. And now he's talking to a group of monks. And the Buddha said, monks, a statement endowed with 5 factors is well spoken, not ill spoken. Then it's blameless and unfaulted by knowledgeable people. And which 5? First one, it's spoken at the right time. It's spoken in truth. It's spoken effectually. It's spoken beneficially. and it is spoken with the mind of kindness. My way of remembering all these lists with this one is what I'm saying true? Is it appropriate? Is it the right time? And is it kind? So I really hope that today's session is inspiring you to frequently reflect on your inner and outer speech this week. Before you speak, and I know that's hard to catch, during speaking, and even after you spoke, with the support of pause and relaxed. So let's reflect together. What's an obstacle for you to speak the truth? Or how does it feel when you're not fully being honest? And perhaps you want to share with the community if something arises in the chat. What helps you to express your truth, especially when it's disagreeable, but without hurting yourself, the other, or both? And just opening it up to the wisdom in our community. Thank you for your listening, and Jessica and I will read some of your reflections, and feel free to share some of them.
Betty shared something very honest with us. She said, sometimes I don't tell the truth, more of a withholding perhaps than a lie, because I don't trust that I can say something skillfully without anger.
Oh, thank you, Betty. I hear you. Just you just naming that pattern is helpful, because that's what repeated reflection does. That's what mindfulness does. We start to see these patterns in our behavior, both in our mind's behavior, in our relational behavior, so we can catch it again. I love that moment when I catch something. And for me, it was just this silly thing of not indulging into pleasure to alleviate the heat from Wednesday. So, I could have done that, but I didn't. So thank you for sharing that, Betty.
Mm. A Zoom user shared with us, former compulsive liar.
Mm.
Self-loathing and fear of being seen were the motivations. If they reject this version, in quotes, it's okay because it's not the real me. Now I find I'm a much quieter person instead of creating stories.
Oh, that's, I feel again that same honesty as we would feel in that middle school. Thank you so much for sharing that. And again, when you're about to engage in something, pause. The pause really works. It's such a refuge. And then if you can remember, pause and become mindful of the body. I too have become a way quieter person. And that's actually supporting a lot of dialogues, because I can still feel the urge to kind of make myself look a little better than I actually am, but I'm not engaging with it. And then after the fact, I realize it wasn't so important. And I'm so grateful that I didn't sometimes. So it's also like the repeated reflection afterwards is also a celebration sometimes, especially with family. Try it with family.
Jessica just shared something in the chat with us, community. She said, I have historically been very easily persuaded and sometimes very easily convinced by others' lies. I think this might be a form of lying to myself. Taking time to process, pause, has helped me discern and learn what I think, feel independently. But I know I have a lot of growth to do in this area.
Thank you for sharing that, Jessica. I also feel again that pain, the kind of first noble truth pain that's unavoidable, that people lie to us. And it's also unavoidable that sometimes we're convinced by other people's lies. That makes it even more painful. And I so appreciate you sharing this pain with us. I think that's what the practice is really asking us to do, is to be radically honest with our experiences. And yes, the repeated reflection does usually tell us, oh, there's room for practice. Not to get ourselves all perfect and stuff, but there's room for some more practice. I appreciate you sharing that, Jessica.
Lisa shared something earlier, Bart. She said, the body never lies, but sometimes the mind lies about what the body is experiencing.
Yeah,
How do you skillfully discern the difference in actual experience versus interpretation of that experience?
that's a good question, Lisa. My first response is, I don't know. And then when I paused a little longer, I realized for me, when my mind is like struggling a little bit what I feel in the body, that's the signal. Like I sometimes still have these moments of that I could feel like my heart is going in a wrong rhythm, and it brings a sense of fear in me and like, ah, is it back? Or when recently I really hurt my toe, oh, I have to go to the hospital. It's like, notice the stories the mind starts talking about the pain, the unavoidable, inevitable pain. And then ask yourself, do I know the truth of these stories? Because most of the times they're just projections into the future that we don't really know. So I find that really helpful to notice my mind constructing all the what ifs. Then it's helpful to just drop it as, oh, worrying is here. Worrying, fear is here. That is true. But what the mind is saying might not, the content of your thoughts. Thank you. I see Vince comment, Jessica.
I was about to read
And I
that.
hear you. Vince,
I'm going to pair it with
yeah,
what
please.
Karsten shared earlier. So this is going to be a
Oh
two-pronged
my, go for it.
inquiry for you, Bart. So Vin said, my current honest feeling, the number of things the Buddha asks us to consider before speaking truthfully is overwhelming.
Mhm.
Speaking no longer feels natural. Am I the only one who feels this way? And then I will go to what Karsten shared. Um, so Karsten shared earlier, as you describe each of the truths, they each suggest a task.
Mhm.
Stephen Batchelor, who has taught with us many times, suggests that we change the Four Noble Truths into four tasks. Number one, recognize and embrace the suffering.
Mhm.
Number two, let go of the craving and arising.
Mhm.
Number three, experience the ceasing of the craving as a result of no longer reacting. And number four, then cultivate the path.
Mm.
What is your take on translating the truths into tasks in this way or another way?
I love it. I
And
love
what if
it
it feels like
constantly.
way too much?
It is. It can feel like a lot. I mean, the fourth noble truth is actually the eightfold path. We're doing 10 paramis. That's why we always break it down at CMC into just one element. And I hear you, Vin, about that's a lot to check. Is it true? Is it appropriate? By time and kind. Those four. But they are trainable, if that's a word. And so sometimes, and that's why I also love about once a month on Thursdays at CMC, we have an in-person inside dialogue gathering in the city where you really sit down again and know that you're coming from that particular place, that you're speaking your subjective truth. It comes from a place of feeling that it's appropriate, that the sense of timing is there, and it comes from kindness. And this is an ongoing, lifelong practice. And maybe you could just start with one element. What if you were to commit? And that's actually the next parami for next week, commitment. What if you were to commit, as the Buddha suggests, to truth? So for this week, just let go of timing, coming from kindness, and appropriate. Just focus on, is what I'm saying true? Is it my subjective truth? Doesn't have to be the ultimate truth. And start there. I'd love to hear how that goes, Vin.
I'm going to do another combo. Or
Thank you, Jessica. You're on fire.
so Elizabeth said, I felt like these two are
Mm-hmm.
in alignment with each other. Elizabeth said, the kindness requirement seems inapplicable in some circumstances, whether when action is imperative, in everyone's interest, or when dealing with harmful power. And then Jennifer followed with, sometimes silence is itself harmful when no one speaks up. How can we find courage to speak and act when appropriate is often used as a tool to silence? And I think
Yeah,
kindness can be used in that way too, right? We want to be kind,
yeah,
so we avoid
yeah.
speaking the truth.
Yes. We're now really at the heart of how challenging this is. Wouldn't it be, it's an utopia to always speak from kindness. And I think the pause has rescued me many, many times. For in that moment, the most appropriate thing was to just listen and not speak. But sometimes, as Jennifer is saying, silence can become violence, as some people might say in certain contexts. I think then what I do is I arm myself with mindfulness of the body as much as possible. And also to be maybe real about how difficult it is for you to speak. That is your subjective truth. That's what I've really felt was such a great aspect that I've learned from my friend Oren through nonviolent communication. Sometimes when it's so difficult to speak what is true for you, is to start by naming that that is difficult. It's also contagious when you feel people are telling their truth about how they struggle with something. That was that mutual sense in that middle school when we all shared, we felt like everyone was being honest right now. And so that could be something to start with when it's really difficult and you're not kind and you don't know the right time, but you have to say something. Just maybe connecting with pause, relax, and notice, oh yeah, I feel very burdened by needing to speak up, but that's where I start. Mm, thank you.
We continue to have so many rich comments coming into the chat, but I am aware of the time.
Yes.
So we will transition in just a minute to breakout rooms, which I actually didn't mention at the beginning of
Mhm.
our session. So if you have 15 more minutes, we always open up breakout rooms, which is an opportunity to come off of mute and to be in dialogue with a couple members of this community. And as a reminder, we really encourage your sharing to be from the honest eye about your own experience. So rather than offering advice or suggestions, solutions to what other people share, really helping us cultivate a space of radical honesty in terms of our own personal reflection and sharing that generously with each other. So to all of you who have made comments that we didn't read, thank you for them. So we read them very carefully. And Bart will be back next week teaching us on Sunday. So he will do his homework. He will review the chat and weave much of what you share into his
Yeah.
teaching for next week. And just two very quick notes that I wanted to make mention of. The first one is that we had on the calendar a June 11th Insight Dialogue practice, which is actually not going to be happening. And similarly, we had a June 6th retreat, which will not be happening, unfortunately. But we are shifting that day long into October. So we are fine tuning the date and the new location. So stay tuned for some details on that. But when we put that up on the calendar, we will also send a notice out to the community. So we will pause on Insight Dialogue over the summer until Bart returns in the fall. And dear Bart, if you have any wise, honest final words for us to
Oh,
close our session, and also often a dedication of merit before we open up our breakout rooms.
well, thank you, Jessica, for holding our community so beautifully. And thank you all for your practice and your honesty. Maybe just coming home to the body as you pause. Is it okay to relax? May of all the things that you've heard or reflected on today, may it support you in pause and relax. And whatever follows from there, let that be good enough. May we allow for mistakes and learning from it through repeated reflection. And may the good energy that is created today be spread all over to all beings. May there be peace. May there be peace. May all beings be liberated. Thank you.